Hi, David.
Hi.
Thanks for coming. What brought you here?
I think it's really important to build networks and to build like resistance in Ottawa to some of the things that are happening. I mean, things seem in a bit of a lull right now in terms of like social movements, and I think we really need to kind of rebuild, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's May Day tomorrow.
Yeah, which is International Workers' Day. So it tends not to be observed so much in English-speaking Canada, but there is a big rally tomorrow on Parliament Hill, so that'll be awesome.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think of this whole event so far? I mean, it was called a Consulta, so that means like, you know, people came to talk and like create dialogue on certain issues. Do you feel that, you know, your issues were sort of addressed here at all?
I think there's some promising ideas, I think. So yeah, I think some things are moving forward. I mean, you know, we'll see it, you know, like how things actually like are turned into concrete action. I mean, that's always the test. I mean, people always have lots of really good ideas, and it's only when they get turned into concrete actual projects that something useful has been accomplished.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of talk about creating a space or establishing a community space. That seems to be one of the main plans here. At least that's the second half of the day is when people started to actually, you know, concretize some stuff. There it is.
Well, I think we actually did have like a small community space in the form of Exile info shop, and I think it's really missed in Ottawa. I mean, it definitely you know, it definitely made things easier in terms of like, you know, if you want to organize some kind of a workshop or an event or a film screening. It was definitely a lot easier, you know, since the space was there, and it was fairly easy to book, and it was free, of course. That's really good. Like our organization, Common Cause, used to hold a lot of events at community centers, and that, you know, even though like, you know, it's no reflection on us or anything, that like after the bank arson, there was kind of a backlash, I think, against radical organizing in Ottawa, and it meant that we no longer had easy access to community center space. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, like for example, charging $20 for an hour at a community center.
So that kind of sort of combined with the loss of Exile, like really kind of made it a bit more difficult to hold events. I mean, you know, there is spaces like this, but you know, these spaces are not as easy to book, let's say, as say, you know, just kind of walking into Exile and basically, you know, finding out if the space is available on a certain day and just actually being able to hold the event or whatever. Yeah.
Hey, Dan. So what brought you here? Like, why are you here?
Well, I mean, I came here because I'm a student at University in Ottawa, and I really, you know, I really wanted to get involved in my community over the course of the summer and really kind of just, you know, help out in the area where I live, issues that affect me and affect everyone else around me, and kind of also bring that perspective to a higher level of thinking as to, you know, more widespread, maybe nationwide or global way of thinking also.
What do you think of some of the issues that sort of were brought forward during this full day of consultation?
I think the issues brought forward really reflect the needs of the community that they come from. Primarily the space that's needed for, you know, some people were concerned about harm reduction programs and drug use, but also for, you know, I want to say almost activism, but also just community networking space, a space where people can kind of come together and feel that they are part of an area where they, you know, where they can contribute, where they can know they have a house or a building or some sort of room where they're welcome, where they're safe, and where they can be, you know, productive in making that a reality for more people.
Mm-hmm. Amanda, you're a veteran of O4J. I see you everywhere at every event. So what did you think of this particular Consulta?
I thought it was good. It was great. It was really good to see something happening for May Day. I think that's a really great tradition for Organizing for Justice to have, to try and do something around International Workers' Day and have a space where people can be actively involved in issues around today. So I think it was great. A lot of people talked about a lot of great ideas and issues they're facing in their community, and not just issues, but then how we can organize and strategize and respond to them and build positive things, which I think is a really great part of Organizing for Justice, that we talk about constructive solutions and improvements, not just, life is shitty.
Yeah, exactly. Which happens at most other events where
Yes.
we talk about all the negative things. And
Which is important too.
But now we can actually come up with a plan to coordinate our plans. So one of the things that came out of it was for you, what in particular was highlighted?
I guess one of the exciting things I see is discussions around creating sort of a collective community space. And that's something that I think has been sort of talked about off and on a bit in the city for a while, and I think that a lot of activist communities talk about that. It's a recurring theme, needing places to meet and to talk and to organize, and then also just spaces to create things, to enact these other spaces and worlds and communities that we hope will exist someday on a much broader scale. But in the meantime, we can still build networks and communities to enact all sorts of interesting things, and to do a lot of those things you need a place that's supportive of that and open to that and accessible to that. So that's one thing I'm really excited about.
Are there any groups that you're involved in or you'd like to see attend, Organizing for Justice, and why?
The groups that aren't currently, I think that's always a challenge. When people talk, about the feedback about what would be great about building Organizing for Justice, there's always talk about, it'd be great if there was more engagement from a broader community, and I think there's always that tension, and that often the people who are really facing challenges and issues are too busy being involved in those challenges and issues to commit to something like this. But Organizing for Justice does a really good job of making it really accessible, which is great, providing food, it's in a downtown location, easy to get to, that kind of thing. But it's still, I think for a lot of people faced with really tough situations or marginalized communities, time is a luxury, and even, bus money is a luxury, childcare is a luxury. So I think we always need to be thinking about ways about how to reach out and build solidarity with other communities who are facing a lot of these issues that we've identified and we're talking about, just don't have the time or the capacity, or just it's not as visible that they're organizing in their own ways. So I think that there's a lot of connections with communities. That's not going to happen in a space like this just because there are restrictions to doing that for a lot of reasons, but there's other ways we can involve communities, and there's other ways that we can support them, and it doesn't have to be about other communities coming to Organizing for Justice. It can be about Organizing for Justice going out and supporting, whatever issues they're facing. Yeah.
Hey Chris, thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, you're welcome.
How did you hear about this?
I heard about it online, I think. I got an invite through Facebook, I think, and then I was on the email listserv as well.
Oh, for O4J,
Yeah, Organizing for Justice.
Did you come as yourself or part of a group, or?
I just came as myself. I invited a lot of people that I know to it that were also interested in a safer consumption site as well, thinking that this might be a first step in getting organized around it. Unfortunately, none of those people came, but I met a lot of people who were interested in it here. So
Yeah, it seems to be a really good opportunity for networking with other groups.
Yeah. No, it was really great. I was surprised. I didn't really think. I thought because nobody I showed up came, I thought nothing would happen with it. But it turns out there was a lot of really great people who actually maybe the idea is newer to them, and therefore they're actually more interested in doing something about it. Whereas the people that were already interested maybe don't have the time or don't have the willingness to take any further steps. So I'm really happy about that.
So, what sort of insight do you have into any of the issues or problems that were sort of talked about? Like, some of the questions were like marginalization and intersectionality and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, I've come to a few different Organizing for Justice events, and one thing I really like about them is that I always see new people at them. Whereas I feel like different activist events I go to, it's always the exact same people, and there's not always a lot of encouragement to further participate. Whereas I feel like this, I always see new people everyone I've been to, and there's always that encouragement to participate, which I find you don't really get in a lot of other activists. I feel like I've done a lot of workshops on anti-oppression and education, and research, through university when I was involved with O4J, it was all based on research and learning more and always learning. And you do some action, but you'd find I was just, all I was doing was reading and reading and reading, and even the small actions that we did do were great, but I feel like I really want to be in a place where I'm doing more actual things that are doing stuff. I feel like I've done the training, and now I can actually do the stuff.
The work.
Yeah, and I have an idea of how it all works now that I guess I didn't even know how to start before.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're one of the organizers for this event.
Yes, I am.
How do you feel it went today?
I think it went really well. I mean, what I love seeing is people that I don't know, and being able to get to know them and know what their issues are and what they're working on and how we can work together. And I think it went really well. Not only did we talk about broader issues in terms of ideologically or like day-to-day life in terms of what challenges we face in our organizing, but we also talked about tangible, practical steps in what we need, how to fulfill those needs, what are the first steps towards fulfilling those needs, and coming up with projects and all initiatives that will, that will come out of this and that hopefully will be sustainable and help organizing on a much broader level in Ottawa.
And
I think it was good.
What are some of the projects that came out of it?
Well, one big thing that we talked about, there are, I think, there are three major projects that came out of it. One in particular that I was involved with was the issue of kind of accessible information and skill sharing and securing a space in Ottawa that would be focused on organizing, like social justice initiatives, whether it's labor or whether it's for supplying food to hungry communities or whatever the needs are, but just having a space in this town where we can go to and it's safe and it's accessible and it's permanent. And we can organize out of that. So we're not always scrambling to find space. We're not always scrambling for funds to find space, but we're also talking about how to financially secure ourselves in terms of a movement. And we're talking about how do we organize together, like amongst groups, amongst individuals, to share that space in an equitable way, but also in a way that's really productive and that really advances us, so that we're not always kind of focusing our efforts on just sustaining day-to-day organizing. We can actually think long-term. We can actually make tangible plans in terms of getting stuff done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.